In there.
Okay, good evening, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm with my wife Jan, and tonight Jan has went over a lot of your all's comments, and we love your comments. Keep them coming, please. We really enjoy reading those and responding to them what we can. And anyway, Jan wrote a bunch of these down.
And don't think we don't look at your questions on that you put up. We do, and Greg will answer them. So what I do is go through and write down the questions that you have listed. Greg maybe has answered it, but we're finding many people don't go back and look at those answers.
Yep.
So this is what we're doing tonight.
Yep.
So
what's the first question?
Well, we've got lots of questions on sheep. And just to clarify, we are sold out of sheep. So don't...
Not rams.
Yes, we got rams and we got some withers.
Yep.
But no ewes. We're trying to find ewes, but we're finding that everybody are out of ewes this year. But anyway, so the first one is, do we give mineral to our sheep and what do we give them?
Yeah, so the question is on mineral. What is the mineral program? We use a product it's called Free Choice Enterprises, and you can just type in FCE on the internet, Google it, and you'll get a hit. It's a company out of Wisconsin. Basically, it's a 16-hole mineral feeder. It's got 16 different boxes in it. It's all under a tarp, or it's a rubber mat. Keeps the weather out of it. And we made some modifications to it because the original mineral feeder that we used, it was kind of, we were losing some lambs in it. They would get their neck broke trying to eat mineral out of it. We rectified that, and we never lost a lamb since. But the basics behind our mineral program on the sheep is they can go in there and eat which mineral they want. And, copper is supposed to be very toxic to sheep. Well, one of our minerals in there is copper. It's free choice, though. Where you get into trouble with copper is where you feed them a cattle mineral, and they've got the copper in there at way too high a level, and I guess it can kill sheep. But we found that there have been a lot of studies done on it, too. Copper is great for keeping parasite load down as well. They eat it. But we like the free choice mineral.
So we used to never give them mineral, and now we do.
Yep.
Have you seen a difference?
So for the first 10 to 12 years that we ran sheep, they didn't get anything other than salt. That's it. I just gave them plain, loose livestock salt. And my reasoning behind not giving them mineral was that the sheep eat a lot of browse stuff, like multiflora bushes, thorn trees, weeds, everything that has a deeper taproot than grass does. And so my thinking was, they're eating all these leaves, they're mining a lot of minerals from those leaves. They don't need any mineral. Well, I decided to try the free choice. I thought, they're not going to eat that. They're a small animal. They're not going to eat that much mineral. Let's see if there is a true difference. I'm always looking to change things up a little bit and see if there is a difference, or if there's an advantage, or if it's better. And so we went to free choice minerals on our sheep 2 years ago. And so we've been on it for 2 years. And the first year, we had we pretty much averaged around 1.5 to 1.6 lambs per ewe. The first year we went on to free choice, we averaged about 1.8. I'm like, whoa, that's a difference, from 1.6 to 1.8 or 1.5. Well, then last year, in 2021, we got all the lambs up, counted them, abandoned the ram lambs, and counted out how many ewe lambs we had. We averaged 2.05.
You rams are just all lambs?
All lambs.
All lambs.
We averaged 2.05 lambs per ewe across the whole flock. Well, folks, at the price of lambs, it didn't take very many lambs to pay for the mineral for a whole year. They just don't eat that much. And so I'm like, I think the free choice minerals, where they get to see, what they do is they go in there and they pick out exactly what they need. Whatever's not in the forage, they can select it out of that mineral tub. And then they poop out 80% of the mineral back onto the pasture. So over time, your animals are remineralizing your farm with the minerals that we're missing. Period. They're a traveling laboratory. That's what they do. So yeah.
And something I wonder, and we haven't really harvested too many lambs, if they would be a little heavier.
I don't know. The ones we butchered last year were just fat.
Right.
You know?
But I mean, it's hard to say. But
Well,
anyway.
y'all saw the condition of our sheep. I mean, I did a sheep video last week, and my goodness, the darn things are just fat, and they're eating dry, stockpiled fescue. I mean, that's all that's out there. And I say stockpiled; it doesn't have much green left in it anymore.
And that's another reason for the mineral feeder too, I think.
Yeah, they're just amazing creatures.
Okay.
They dig through the snow.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's go on to
Okay.
another question.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm stealing your thunder.
Yeah. Well, I don't. But no, I have a lot of questions here, and we don't have a lot of time. So, people want to know the spacing for the perimeter fence, and then if you want, go ahead and tell them what we do with the interior fence, which many of them already know. But
yeah, so your perimeter fence to keep your to keep the sheep on your farm. First of all, you've got to have a very hot charger. You need a very good charger. Don't go buy a cheap charger at the local. And I'm all about supporting local. And if they've got the brands, I'll just name them. Speedrite, number one. Speedrite bought Stafix. And number 2 would be Cyclops. Number 3 would be Gallagher. Those 3 chargers, if they got either of those 3, they're good chargers. But I'm not going to name the bad ones because I don't want to get somebody down on me. But make sure you're putting out, 8 to 10,000 volts. And we got a phone call in the background. Folks, you just got to take it. It's going to ring 3 times. We'll let it ring. But you need a spacing of around 6 inches. 6 inches for your bottom wire, around 12 inches for your second wire, and 18 inches for your third wire. And if you're going to run cattle on that same farm, I'd put a 4th wire up, and that one needs to be 32. That's for the cows. It's not for the sheep. And then we've got our sheep broke to one single poly braid wire now. So we run 1 wire, and it's at about 12 inches tall.
on the interior.
On the interior. We're strip grazing them with a reel. So you can look on our videos. I've got lots of videos about that.
So which ones are hot?
Which wires are hot on the permanent fence?
Yep.
Okay, so I make the 12 inch wire, the 18-inch wire, and the 32. Those are all hot. That bottom wire is the ground wire.
Okay.
And the reason the bottom wire is the ground wire, that's where all your dew and the heaviest vegetative load is on that lower wire because it's always wet down in there. Well, it's a ground wire, so you're not going to be zapping your charger.
Okay. And while I do have one fence question here, and you talked a bit about how many chargers we have. We have a lot. We have a lot of farms. But do we do lightning protectors? Or ground rods, or whatever you want to.
Well, no, they're different.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, a ground rod is what you drive in by your charger. You've got to have a good grounding system. And the bigger the charger, the more ground rods you have.
And where do we put them?
You put them, well, first of all, you got to come out of your box with a wire. And the first ground rod needs to be at least 10 foot from your box. And then each successive ground rod in succession, they need to be 10 feet apart. If you put them closer than that, you're not getting the full potential of your ground rod. And most of your electric fence problems are caused by ineffective ground. If you got a bad ground, even the connectors, you got to check your connectors. So let's say you put in a 6-foot ground rod and you put a cheap ground rod clamp on it. Might as well not put it on. Check those ground rod clamps. Are they tight? Are they carrying the current or the flow to the next ground rod? Lightning protectors, you talked about that.
Yeah, lightning. That's what they asked. Lightning protectors.
Yeah, so a lightning protector is basically we call them lightning chokes. You take a 50-foot roll of insulated wire. They sell it at these fencing dealers. It's the black wire. It's underground type wire. And you just take a black roll of it, 50 feet, and you leave it in the roll. You just fasten point A and point B right in front of your charger.
Oh, I've seen those.
Yeah, they just hang down. And so when the lightning comes in, it's got to go through all those wires, and it knocks
it out.
knocks it out. And occasionally you'll get a strong surge, and it doesn't, but not very often.
Okay. One more thing. So when we put those ground rods in, what do you try to look for?
Oh, you put them on the north side of a building.
Because
Because they like facing north. No. You put them on the north. All right, you put them on the north side of the building.
you did it.
Because that's where you're out of the sunlight, and you want a moist. You need moist ground, and ideally, if you got a drip edge, you don't have a gutter on a building, so you got the full length of your building, and that water's coming off that building. You got a drip zone. Boy, that's a beautiful place to put your ground rods. But they need moisture, and if your ground rods get dry during a drought, you need to get out there with a 5-gallon bucket, put some water on them ground rods. If your cattle are getting out, it's probably your ground rods aren't.
Or sheep.
Or sheep, whatever's getting out. You may set that line out there, or your tester, well, it looks good, but they're not getting grounded. It's your ground rod system, so put some water on those. If you get 30 days, 100 degrees, you need to go put some water in your ground rods.
Or go check to make certain there's water out there.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of sheep do we do? Goats, dwarf goats. Do goats eat different from sheep?
Yeah, so do goats eat different from sheep? Yeah, I mean, a goat is more aggressive on brush than a hair sheep would be, because they can stand on their hind legs. They can graze standing on their hind legs.
They can get up in low trees,
They
multiple
can.
rows.
So if you've got more woody stuff, a lot of woods, that's just brambles and vines, goats might be your animal. It's just the problem is keeping them in. And we used to have goats, and I loved the goats. We had them for about 10 years. And the reason we don't have goats today is we have neighbors that put in lots of food plots for deer.
Yeah.
And those darn goats, they do pretty good in the summertime, but in the wintertime, they'd go find those deer plots. And I don't care how good a fence we built. The old adage is if you can throw water through a fence, it won't hold the goat. And that's about the truth of it.
Yeah.
If they want to go, they're going to go.
And when we had the goats, what kind of goats did we have? We had
everything.
Yeah.
But we were breeding them to boar goat
Yeah.
billies, and they brought good money. And the problem with the goats is just keeping them home. So
and babies.
they weren't the best mothers.
They were not good
Yeah.
mothers.
We would watch a goat nanny just have a kid, and she'd look at it and walk off, and
Like, not mine.
not mine, and then she'd be bawling for it that night. But the hair sheep are extremely good mothers, and they're pretty aggressive grazers. They'll go after a lot of the woody stuff. They just can't stand on their hind legs. So
We wish they could.
yeah, but they can't.
But we have sheep with mainly what kind of background?
Well, the sheep that we run are St. Croix. And the St. Croix are parasite resistant. That's one of the traits that they claim to fame. And we've went a step further. We've had them now for 20 years, and we've never wormed. A lot of people that run St. Croix, they worm them. They just do. And one of my good friends, he used to go to St. Croix. He was going to St. Croix meetings. He sat there and listened to him for 3 days talking about this wormer and that wormer. And he's like, he finally stood up and just hollered. He said, "What are you all talking about? We've got the best breed in the world for parasite resistance. All y'all can talk about is wormers." And I think they kind of blackballed him after that.
Right.
But anyway.
But one of the things we are doing is we're moving them. We're not letting
Absolutely.
them eat down
Absolutely.
to inch, an inch.
Yep. If you've got one farm, folks, and one pasture, you just turn the sheep loose in it and don't move them, there's a good chance you're going to put a lot of pressure on those sheep, because sheep camp out in one spot. They'll pick a spot on your farm that's going to be the highest point, and that's where they camp at. They sleep there every night, and they poop there. And so when they go back there each night, they're reinfecting themselves. That's why you want to move your sheep.
So we'll do one more question. And that kind of goes along with, is there a sheep per acre formula, brush versus pasture? Like that, do you need X amount of brush in that, where they're at, that acre, you know?
Yeah, so you got to look at the animal's gut, and you can tell when animals are losing condition. I mean, you start looking at the ribs and the vertebrae and all that. If you can start seeing that on a sheep or a goat, you're pushing them too hard. You need to give them a bigger space and move them more often. There's no money to be made in starving sheep or goats to eat something. If you got them in there so tight and there's not enough area there, they're gonna lose condition. There's a good chance they're not gonna have a very good kidding rate or a lambing rate. So don't push your animals that hard where you just make them eat the bark off of stuff. That's not proving anything. All that's being is,
Well,
it's a good way to go broke.
And another thing is, look at your land. Your animals are telling you something, and your land's telling you something.
Yep.
You know, if things aren't coming back, at one point we thought we wanted to have we wanted 500 head of ewes, and we find 500 is not our number.
Nope. Not with the way we're running the cow herd. Now, if we took and completely eliminated, we're running 300 and almost 40 cows, calves, yearlings, bulls, everything. If we eliminated that cow herd and multiplied, so to give you an example, right now we're running about 250 animal units. Well, you could take 250 animal units. For every cow that you're running, you could run about 5 ewes. So do the math on that.
Yeah.
We could be running, 250 times 5.
But could you see us running sheep a mile down the road?
Probably not. But I've kidded Jan a lot. As you get older and you don't have the energy to get out checking the cows and snow and all that, those darn sheep, they don't need anything. They just don't. They need a guard dog. They need several guard dogs. They just don't. They don't. This last ice storm we had in the snow, the darn thing just went out and made a living.
Yeah.
So there's really good money to be made in sheep, especially you small acreage folks. I want to cover that real quick.
Yeah.
Everybody's sending me all these emails. Oh, I've got 3 acres. I got 7 acres. How many cows can I run?
I was just going to bring that up.
No, just stop. If you only got 3 to 7 acres, run sheep.
And if you're going to get into it, how many sheep should you get to start with? Because it
depends how many acres you got.
Well, let's just say. So how many sheep per acre should you run?
Depends where you live. How much rainfall you get. That's a $64,000 question.
Right, because we get these questions all the time.
But let me just give you this. If you're in Missouri, you got 3 acres. That's 1 animal unit. So
a cow.
Or a cow. Yeah, you could run 1 cow on that. And it's going to be pretty dicey in the summertime. If you get a hot, dry spell, that's the thing about sheep is they don't require as much feed. So, and they can take droughts a lot better than cattle can. You could run 5 sheep on that 3 acres and probably get the lambs out of them. You're not going to be able to run 25, 30 head on there. If you do, you're going to be overgrazing. And you're going to get parasites and you're going to start worming them. So if you've got small acreage, you can run a few sheep on that, but you're not going to be able to run very many cows. So I'll just leave it there. We've carried on pretty good.
But also because I deal with the sheep, I get a lot of the small farmer or small homesteads. Start out small. See if you even like it. See if it works for you and your family, right?
Yeah. Couple ewes. Just get a couple.
And just see if you like working with them.
Yep. Folks, we got to quit right here and sign off. Everyone new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. There's also a little bell at the top. You hit that bell, you'll get a notice, email be dropped in your mailbox every time we post one of these. So appreciate all y'all. Keep the comments coming, and everyone have a great evening. Thank you all.